Hey everybody, it's Coach Ballot with Too Many Men on the Mic, and Drew and I today are joined by Joe Bonnett. He is a manager of player development for USA Hockey, represents the Rocky Mountain District and a good chunk of our West Coast, what we call the Pacific District for player development. Always want to let everybody know, the expertise that we bring on here from USA Hockey. Joe has been with USA Hockey for just over 10 years. He's been coaching for over 20 years, and he was 19 seasons at the NCAA Division One level. Most recently, from 2000 to 2014, he was an assistant coach at Colorado College. He had some WCHA championships, NCAA tournament appearances, Frozen Four. So, we are bringing some great insight and expertise to the podcast today. And Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about developing leadership across all spectrums here in youth hockey. But thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Coach Jared, and thanks, Coach Drew. Thanks for having me. Excited to speak with you guys today.
That's quite some ammo that you put out there, Jared, around Joe's resume. For today, Joe, we're going to be talking about leadership. And let's get started with what are some tips for parents and coaches to encourage players to take ownership and leadership in their development?
So it's such a good question, and it's such an important topic. And I talked to Coach Jared a little bit before the segment started, and the one thing that I know and the one thing that I love about hockey is that even though hockey sometimes seems crazy, it still delivers. It still prepares the kids. It still challenges the kids every single day they come to the rink, not just in hockey, but in life. And I think the biggest thing that I love about hockey is that a lot of the things that the players learn transfers into real life. The time management, having to perform, show up at school and still perform in school, and then get to the rink. And I think what parents need to understand is that, leadership isn't really, it's not a title, it's a behavior. And I think as a parent and coach, the number one important thing that I would say to encourage good leadership and accountability and being a good human being is having the right environment for those players to develop those skills. And as a coach, and Coach Jared named a couple of things, but I think what I'm most proud of is how long I've coached my kids as well. So I've coached a lot of youth hockey. I've coached boy youth hockey. I've coached girls youth hockey. And I've learned a lot about, developing human beings through hockey. And I think what parents have to understand is what's more important, first of all, especially at the 8, 10, 12 years old, are you planting a seed for that seed to grow in terms of love for the game? If your child loves the game coming up through hockey, they're going to have a chance to develop a lot of different skills. If you have to drag them to the rink and they don't want to be there, it's going to be tough. So first and foremost is, are you gardening? Are you developing love for the game with your child? Not over pushing the sport, having great talks in the car that are positive, encouraging the kids to develop their skills rather than scoring a goal or winning and losing. And I think that's where it all starts, is what is the context of your relationship with the game? And if it's positive, and if your kids really love the game, as they get older, development and leadership is really going to take hold. Secondly, I think, and I take this serious because I consider myself a professional coach. Even though I'm a youth coach, I can still be a great professional coach, or a world-class coach, I should say, is that as I coach my teams, I have to reflect the expectation that's expected from the kids. I run into a lot of youth coaches that expect their kids to be growth mindset, expect their kids to come and work hard, expect their kids to learn new things at the rink. But the coach is the opposite. They have all the answers and they don't want to learn anything new. They show up to the rink with no lesson plan. They show up to the rink with low energy. And I think if you're asking kids to grow as leaders, you have to lead yourself, and you have to create that environment where leadership is going to grow. I don't necessarily think you need to put rules on kids how to act. I think if you're coaching a program and you have high expectations and high support with your players, we do things the right way. We strive to be the best. And then the support within that, and to teach those kids how to act within those curves, right? It's not black and white, right? You have curves, and on the road is your expectations. And those little kids are going to be bouncing all over the road. And as soon as they go over the curbs, am I a leader to keep those kids in the curbs in terms of their behavior, their accountability, and their future growth? And if you can create that positive team dynamic, if you can create high expectations with high support and bring young kids along, I think you have a chance then to develop future leaders, future captains, but most importantly, awesome teammates. And because if a coach can develop positive teammates, and if you can teach what it is to be a good teammate, I think you're doing your job as a youth hockey coach. And then I think too, you can really start to talk about player development, because it's not just about skate, shoot, pass, stick handle. It is the whole package.
I stole about 6 isms there from Hockey Delivers, which, by the way, Joe, if you ever want to start your own podcast, I think Hockey Delivers is your tagline.
But the thing with Hockey Delivers is parents can get so frustrated with the time, the money, the pressure, the losses, the early mornings. But if you look big picture, is your kid showing up? Is he getting better? Is he interacting with teammates? Is he working hard? Those things all will translate to life. And that's why I believe in the sport. That's why I love it.
You started off talking about, really the formative years, 8, 9, 10 years old, where it is so critical to get them hooked on hockey. That's another tagline, another ism, hooked on hockey. Write that down. When do we start? So Drew and I use the phrase for parents and even coaches going from the driver to the passenger in the development curve. And we talk about taking ownership and leading your own development as a player. It's almost like the parents and coaches go from the driver to the co-pilot to the passenger, right? In that order. Tell us a little bit about, as a coach and as we're helping to develop and grow alongside these players, because I agree with you 100%. The coach has to learn something and grow alongside the players. When should we start to track for that, in the expectations along those lines, recognizing that no kid is on the same trajectory or the same pace?
Right. So I think real simply, I think prepubescent hockey, I call it ice cream cone hockey, 8U, 10U, 12U, where physically the boys and the girls are the same. We know through research there's not a lot of brain activity at those ages. The brain is not nearly developed as I think sometimes coaches think it is. And
I mean, because Drew and I don't have that brain activity yet either.
So. Sometimes it never develops. But what's interesting is, the kids don't even drive themselves to the rink, and so at those ages, a lot of the guidance in development is led by the coach, but more specifically the parents. The parents has to drag the kid to the rink. The parents has to drive the kid to the rink. The parent has to tie the kid's skates. The parent might have to even push the kid out on the ice. And so to expect development to be on the kid's shoulders at that age, I think is a little bit misleading, maybe a little bit unfair. But as the kids get into and out of puberty, now as you get to about 14 years old, 15 years old, where playing hockey turns into becoming a hockey player, is right around those ages. Now what you're getting is you're getting physical growth. You're starting to get your big boy muscles or your big girl muscles. You're getting more brain development. So now there's a maturity level to the kids where they can start to link not only the game together, but adult relationships and teammate relationships that are proper. And I think as soon as the kid starts to come out of puberty, there's going to be a sign. Do they love the game? And are they a little bit of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, crazy to shoot 100 pucks, to go to the weight room, to go to extra skill sessions? Now, I'm not saying over specialize. I'm saying now to start to specialize. You don't want to specialize at 8U, 10U, 12U. That's where you play other sports. That's athleticism. That's physical literacy. But at 14, 15, 16, when that body takes over and your fire for the game becomes real and you can control that, that's the age that kids are clearly in charge of their own development. That's the time kids are clearly in charge of their own motivation. I'll give you $1 to score a goal. That goes out the window fast at that age. But what happens is all the other kids now have caught up physically and mentally. So the best kid at 10U can't just take the puck down from the red line and go score a goal. Hockey becomes very difficult at 14, 15, 16, 18, 20 because the strength and the experience kind of evens out. And if kids are ready to deal in that environment and score goals and play hockey in that environment where it's competitively tough, and if they can mentally do that and they want to come to the rink motivated, to me, those are the kids that are going to have the chance then to play when they're 22, 23, 24, 25. And so I think motivation clearly moves to the kids' shoulders at those ages.
I love it. You said a lot of great things there, and taking accountability for your development at 14, 15. I think Jared and I have seen that with our high school kids that we coach, and really them owning that experience. Some of them can drive to the rink because they're in high school, but not all of them.
Right. So I'm coaching a 14U girls team.
I wouldn't get in the car with half of them.
Yeah. Stay off the road. I'm coaching a 14U girls team right now, and we just had a parent meeting. And part of that meeting was we're halfway through the season, and the girls are showing clear signs that they are engaged in their own development. Well, what do I mean by that? I hear that the girls are asking their parents, we got to get to the rink early, Mom. There's a desire. I show up to our shooting pad, and 3/4 of the team is there a half hour early getting extra shots. There's signs that the girls are engaged in their own development. And I think if you can achieve that as a coach and create that, again, it goes back to the environment. Is it stimulating? Is it awesome? Is it intoxicating for the kids to rush to the rink? That now you're talking player development, and you're giving those kids a chance to develop their talent over time, which I think is your job as a coach.
Joe, let's talk about the leadership spectrum for kids. Should all kids really be, quote, leaders? And how should we define being a leader?
So
hey, we got that. That's a deep conversation. We got to pay a couple bills here real quick. So let's, pause real quick here to talk to our sponsors and pay some bills. And then we'll be right back with Joe Bonnett from USA Hockey. We're back with Joe Bonnett, USA Hockey, and Coach Drew. I think you laid out a deep question. Let's refresh and dive right in.
Absolutely, Joe. Talking about the leadership spectrum for kids, should all kids really be, quote, leaders? And how should we define being a leader?
Sure. When I was coaching at Colorado College, I learned a huge lesson from a young man named Mark Stewart. Probably most people listening to this podcast have no idea who he is, but he was a young man from Rochester, Minnesota. He was the youngest of 3 brothers. All 3 brothers were drafted in the NHL, and he was our captain at CC. And he was a first-round draft pick by the Boston Bruins, and he's currently the assistant coach with the Edmonton Oilers. And Mark taught me something really important because Mark was an impressive physical person. He was intimidating physical, very big, very aggressive looking. And I think most coaches think about being a captain as being like kind of the rah-rah guy or the old school football guy, the hardest working guy and the most alpha male person in the room, guy or girl. And what Mark taught me was, yes, he was the hardest working guy. I think that's hands down, but he was so intelligent and he was so in tune with the team. And he had the ability to get himself ready, but he also had the ability to get the team ready. And he also had the ability to have mature relationship with the coaches to have that dialogue. So back to your question, Drew, should all kids be captains? I think in the end, when it's time to be a hardcore captain, I'm not convinced that everybody has captain DNA, has captain fabric. But as youth hockey coaches, I do believe, especially, again, at 10U, 12U, I would even say 14U, it's our job to have a leadership component within our program. And I'm going to start real clearly. So what a captain is, real simple, is somebody with a growth mindset. Somebody that is not selfish. Somebody who does not campaign for attention. That's what you get. Somebody who maybe has the coolest equipment, or there's the coolest kid in the locker room, therefore has to be the captain. I don't believe in that. I believe that it's our job to create, again, kids with growth mindset that ultimately can reach their leadership roles. And again, as I said earlier, it's being a captain's not a title, it's a skill. And what are some of the skills? So if you look at the growth mindset work, do your kids embrace challenges? Right? If you have somebody who embraces a challenge, that's kind of a winning mindset. Do they learn from coaching or from criticism or feedback? Not a lot of kids can do that. They curl up and they brisk and they don't want to hear negatives. Are they intelligent? Do they believe intelligence can be developed in general? Those types of things. Do they give more effort? Do they keep trying and never give up? Those little things. Are they inspired by other successes? That's a huge thing in youth hockey. If your teammate gets a hat trick or a shutout, are you truly happy for that kid? I see a lot of times they're not. They're pissed off. Well, that's not leadership. Do they learn from failure? And so at 10, U12, U14, rather than slapping a letter on a kid's jerseys, I take the approach where all the kids are going to learn leadership skills. And then those that start to really take off with those skills, I think, ultimately become the captain. Because as Mark Stewart taught me, it's not the loudest guy in the room. It's the person who has the most emotional intelligence in the room. The person that can walk over to two knuckleheads, even in this day with Safe Sport, and say, knock it off. The person that can go up to the coach and give a pretty good, mature report on what's going on inside the locker room, even though it's weird because they're all teammates, right? And obviously kids that want to work the hardest is usually a pretty good indicator. So I think it's a combination of all that kind of stuff. But first of all, can the kids lead themselves? Can they control their attitude? Can they bounce back after a mistake? Are they coachable? Because I think being a captain, to wrap up my answer, the definition is being a captain is the person who has the impact on the team, not the volume on the team. And when you start to weed those kids out and grow those kids, I think your team will be successful. And then obviously, if you have a room full of captains and a room full of people with that growth mindset, that understand that hockey will take time and it's a lot of work, you got a way better chance of enjoying your season. And so that would be my approach. As a 14U coach, and I've coached my two boys and my daughter at that level, I've never had captains at 14U. To me, 16, 18, it was kind of the age because of what we just talked about, the brain development, the physical development, the action capability, on the ice should be pretty good too. And that's kind of where that's at. I'm not opposed to having captains at 14, but I really believe in developing the team in terms of their leadership skills to get everybody up and running on that pathway.
Yeah. I think a good coach reads his or her team, and like the players make that decision.
Yeah.
Just naturally. And I love that you keep saying mindset. There's a book written called Mindset by a woman named Carol Dweck. She's a PhD, and some of the anecdotal stories throughout that are so geared towards, they use sports as an analogy for life. And I've had situations in the past where I've taken some chapters and asked kids to read those chapters and talk about it and feel about it. And it's funny what you say about the impact, because I was talking to a player about a week ago, and this player's had good production 5-on-5, not getting a lot of power play time. And I just asked him, he said, how you feel? He says, Coach, we're winning right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right there, it's like, this kid's forechecking, he's back checking, he is contributing, but he's just like, we're winning. And I'm like, that's it. That's what it means. You touched on a couple of things, and you talk about the room. And I, as a coach, and I think Drew kind of feels this too, it's hard to get to that point where you have that player-led team. And obviously there's some maturity aspects, going from that, driver to co-pilot to passenger role as a coach and a parent. But what are some environments that coaches can help create to get to that player-led team? Because you look at Florida Panthers, most recent example, and I know that's at the highest level, but holy cow, like, I don't know if I've seen a more player-led team.
So it's such a great question. And I think it's such a relevant question. And I think, God, that's all right. So we're going to go with this. And you guys can tell me to be quiet and interact too. But so the Florida Panthers is such a good example. I'm going to give you a more personal example. So a really good friend of mine is Pat Ferschweiler. Pat played at Western Michigan. He's the head coach of the Broncos. Currently, he's the national championship winning coach with the Western Michigan Broncos, who actually won it in your guys' city in St. Louis.
Yeah, not a big deal. Not a big deal.
Yeah. And I tell you what, St. Louis did a great job hosting. I was able to go. And I'm pretty good friends with Pat. We coached the Hlinka team together and kind of grew up together with them a little bit with their coaching. And his goal every year is to turn the team over to the team. Now, that's at the NCAA level. And like you said, that's at the NHL level. But it goes back to what I said, that very first statement as the coach. If you're coaching youth hockey, yes, you have to be a leader. Yes, you have to create an unbelievable environment to get the kids to want to come to the rink. But it is also your job to make the motivation come from within. Are the kids motivated being at the rink because they love hockey? Or do you expect them to get motivated for a game because of your 3-minute pregame speech where you rant and rave? And so how do you turn over that motivation to even young kids? And so, we've done a lot of work at USA Hockey with fun. And when I talk about that environment, is your environment fun? And that doesn't mean shinny, shootouts, making snow angels on the ice. What I'm talking about is, are you giving the kids positive coaching? Are they learning? Are you asking them to work hard? Is it a positive team dynamic? And I think if those 4 bullet points with the research and fun shows is if you can do those types of things, again, I'll say it again, positive coaching, asking the kids to work hard. Are the kids believing that they're getting better? Is it a positive team dynamic? If you can create that environment, you're going to create an atmosphere for kids to come and get better. And if they're coming to get better and they're feeling that, they will ultimately take over ownership of their development and ultimately of the team. Again, remember the curves. If you're holding kids inside the curves, if it's fair, I'm not saying it's got to be equal judgment or equal discipline with all the kids. Is it fair? And do the kids know it's fair? Do the kids know it's safe? And what Pat Ferschweiler at Western talks about, he talks about horizontal accountability, not vertical accountability. Vertical accountability comes from me. I can only do that so long during a season. I only have 3 bullets a season to blow up on the team and yell at them and get them back in line. And what I talk about with our team is vertical accountability is, okay, do you guys know what I mean by vertical accountability? So they're all sitting in the locker room next to each other. The vertical accountability comes from within the team. Hey, knock it off. It's too loud in the locker room. Change that song. It's inappropriate. Hey, get your stick on the ice and catch a pass. Hey, remember, we're stopping in front of the net, right? Like if you start getting those little conversations and they're subtle, hey, good job, even though you fell down on the breakaway or whatever. Everybody really cheering for a shot block. Those little seeds of love and accountability creates that vertical accountability where now I can enjoy my coffee on the bench and not micromanage every single thing with my team. And I've seen that work at 12U, 14, 16, not just with the Panthers and Western Michigan hockey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Hlinka Cup. Drew, we won the Hlinka Cup this past year, and we had it on the screen in Columbus, Ohio, when I was at level 5. Oh wait, no.
I knew you were going to drop that in there. I knew it.
That's a skill though as a coach, Joe, because that shoulder to shoulder peer led, like we cheer for block shots, we cheer for physical plays. You have to be careful with the players and give them that guidance where it's like, hey, keep it positive.
That's right.
Keep it positive. And Drew and I find this especially when we're at the high school level and you have this varying degrees of actual physical skill. molding that so that you can get, oftentimes it's your more skilled players have been playing longer. Sometimes they're older by virtue. But yeah, like what are some tips? Because we hear things and we don't always want to dive in and course correct the minute we hear it. But what are some tips to make sure that we can, these kids aren't perfect, coaches aren't perfect. Sometimes the peer-led feedback is not always the most positive, and sometimes it's just a word that you say. What are some feedback and tips that you've used to kind of help encourage a kid who is a leader, but maybe didn't lead the best that they could have?
Yeah, it's funny because I think encouragement with youth hockey, it's often quiet. You don't hear it a lot of time as coaches. You hear about the effects of it, or you hear somebody complaining about it later, but they do it at interesting times. But I'm a big believer in this, and I tell my coaches this, is that first of all, you have to pay attention to all the kids. We actually keep a little bit of I got this from Roger Grillo. He's doing it with the Montreal Canadiens in the NHL level. We keep a binder of like, when's the last time we've talked to everybody? Right. We might go 2 weeks. Does anybody talk to so-and-so? Like, no, I haven't talked to that kid in 2 weeks. And so that we're just continuing having really good communication with the kid. Again, high support, high expectation. But the one thing I consider ourselves as gardeners in terms of culture and team culture. I get a kick out of the coaches that bitch. Oh, this kid's a jerk, or no, this kid's not a good kid, or this kid's negative. But there's no dialogue. There's no communication. And I'm a big believer. I know a lot of the families that I work with and coach, everything gets nipped into the bud immediately. So if I hear something, if I sense something, if I see tears, if somebody does say, "Hey, Joe," somebody said something, I don't wait and observe and watch. We kind of get it out in the open with the team right away. And again, like, I don't deal with nonsense very well. I don't deal with noise. And I tell the kids, we're going to give you a very good pathway to success. And I tell the parents this too in the parent meetings. We're not going to waste your time. We're not going to waste your money. But every time we come together, it's going to be purposeful. And anything that takes away from our development is nonsense. Kids picking on each other, kids being negative, kids making fun of each other, kids worrying about next year when it's December. All those things to me are nonsense, and it takes away from development. And the only thing as a coach that you should be worried about, I think, is that positive environment and developing those kids. So we talk about it. We also do a nice little thing too. We have check-ins with the kids. We check in with kids individually. It's a short exercise where the kid's walking in and maybe his shoulders are slumped. And you say to her, "Hey, check in, how's it going? What's your number?" And it's a 1 through 10 scale. And she'll say, "Hey, I'm at a 5 today, coach. Had a really bad test at school." "All right, well, this is your 60 minutes to forget about that and go sweat and have fun. All right, keep your chin up," that type of stuff. But you're always nipping it. You're always pruning, to grow your garden so it's positive. We're not weed killer. We don't want death. We don't want negativity. We don't want sadness. We want our kids happy and sporty, but it's every single day as those kids are walking in. I'll give you another example. Like, a lot of our coaches get dressed on the other side of the rink. They get, because we don't have a coach's room, so they get dressed on the bench, but then the locker room's on the other side. And I tell our staff, we're right outside the locker room. So when we see the kids, when they walk in, when they walk out, when they're getting ready to go on the ice, we're present. And we're the adults in the room, and we're not their best friends. I tell them all the time, I say, "I'm your coach. I'm your hockey coach. I like you guys, but I don't get drawn into the drama, the fist, the whatever." And you stay even keeled. You stay away from the nonsense. You nip it in the bud, and you motivate the kids to get better every day. And it's a combination, but it works. But if you just come in unprepared and don't enjoy the kids and have no energy, good luck. There's going to be issues.
I love it. Grow your garden, Joe. That's a great ism right there. Well,
like a Hendrix lyric. It's like a Hendrix lyric.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Joe, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today. I think we're going to pivot, if it's okay with you, if you've got a couple minutes, and do a little bit of drill draw.
Sure.
So, Jared, I'm going to let you control our drift hockey instance, and we can leave our listening audience with a great drill.
Okay.
Can you guys see my screen yet, or is Grant, our producer? All right. So, Joe, no pressure, but your compatriots at USA Hockey have given us some awesome drills that Drew and I have used, and we've passed on to our friends. We post all of these in PDF form on our website at toomanymenonthemic.com. And we're leveraging this new app that Drew and I have been working with a guy named Brian Dolan, who's actually out on the East Coast. He's trying to build an all-inclusive app that we're test piloting here. And as you see, this is our high school one, so the kids have access to this too. And it's a lot of communication. But I'm going to go ahead and hit create drill. This should look familiar to most of us. And once this loads, when the hamsters, Joe, talk me through where we want to put the players and all that stuff.
This drill is my favorite drill right now because you asked me a go-to drill, and those change. Those go through. This drill will probably be about a 6-month process, 6-month lifespan. Then we'll go on to something else. But this is my favorite drill because it encompasses so many things and it's easy. But the number one complaint I hear from youth hockey coaches is, how do I get my kids? How do I get their head up and make a play? And then the other thing it really works on is puck possession. Everyone says we're a puck possession team, but when you watch practice, it has nothing to do with puck possession. So it's puck possession, it's passing, but more importantly, it's getting eyes up and scanning and puck support. So the drill is called 3v3, 3 touch plus coach. And it's it's going to be in one end zone with no nets, no goalies. And you can put, say, black jerseys outside the blue line on one side. And you can put gold or white jerseys outside the blue line looking into the end zone on the other side. Yep. And then you're going to put the coach right in the middle. So put those black jerseys on one side.
Oh, one side of the blue line or one side of the
so on that side of the blue line, but on their half of the ice. Yeah, there you go. Boom. There you go. Great.
Now, see, I'm learning. This is coach led right now. This is coach led.
Okay. Now go yellow and do that team on the other side of the ice outside the blue line. Yep. And let's go with groups of 3 on this one. So add one more player to that first group.
Okay. One more player, one more on each side. So 3-8-3-3. Gotcha. Yeah. Let's do this. And then we'll go back. Brian, if you're watching, USA Hockey is loving this. There we go.
Okay. Put a coach in the middle of the black and gold team with pucks.
Gotcha. We'll make the coach blue.
Okay.
All right. And pucks.
Yep. Now in zone, I want you to spread just anywhere in the zone, put 3 black jersey players.
Gotcha. On this side over here?
Yep. And you can scatter them around anywhere you want. Boom, boom. Okay, now put 3 gold in there randomly. Doesn't really matter. And then put 1 blue coach in the zone.
Gotcha.
Okay. So here's the drill. I'll talk about it here for a second now. So on the whistle, blue coach in the neutral zone is going to fire a 50-50 puck inside the zone. Okay. And the reason why I have them throw the 50-50 puck in is because part of my intent, part of my style of play, part of my concepts, and which goes into forechecking, is I want my players to be first to puck. So I try not to start too many drills off where the players have the puck on their stick. I don't consider that real hockey. Real hockey is when you have to be first to puck. In every drill that I can create a 50-50 puck in, my players are shot out of a cannon and first to puck. And so that's how I try to create tempo and races to puck. And then that transfers to the game. Now, whoever receives the puck or earns possession of the puck. So let's say in this case, it's the black team. So if you want to put the black jersey player on the puck. Yeah. Okay. So black now has possession. So the object of the game is for Team Black to make a successful pass between all three players. So if that black jersey player there passes to, say, a teammate, you can make a pass there. Yep. Okay. Now the other teammate is not in a great spot right now. So, yeah, there you go. So see, now that's the puck support I'm looking for. That movement.
There you go. Player led, guys. Player led.
Player led. Okay, now, so stop there. Now, in theory, this drill is the passing is completed because all three players made a successful pass to each other. Now, if the game says I can't make that final pass to the third player, the black players can still pass the puck between each other as much as they want. So if Jared, Drew, and myself are of a threesome there, Drew passes to Joe, I have nothing else, I can go back to Drew. Drew can come back to Joe. Joe can go back to Drew. Then we hit Jared, and then we completed the three pass drill.
So every player in the zone must at least touch the puck once.
Must control it. And then the final thing to get the win, Jared, to get the win now, the coach has to be moving and supporting the offensive team. And then that third player has to make a successful pass to the coach. When that happens, Team Black wins.
Gotcha. Okay.
So then if Gold steals the puck, which happens a lot, then Gold has to go for the three pass and then hit coach. And it gets extremely competitive. But you can see what's going on here. There's a ton of puck support. There's a ton of passing. Show where you want it. Tell them when you want it, right? The passing skills. You have to be able to scan. And what I tell my team is, and with young coaches that try this drill, you'll know your team struggles with this concept because the puck is going to be on the wall a lot. If the puck gets on the wall and it's a 3-on-3 battle on the wall, your team sucks, or your team is insufficient with puck handling in open space, getting open and handling the passes. So when you start out with this, be patient because it's going to be ugly, but give it time. As soon as the kids get the puck off the wall, now they're moving in space and get their head up. Your team is improved. Your passing skills are going to transfer to a real game because that's as real as you can get. And I love the puck support piece.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to we'll publish this. I'm stealing it. We may use it tomorrow on our practice. Tomorrow is our kind of, we don't have games this weekend, so we're going to have, I basically put it out to the kids to basically, here's 6 games we usually play. You guys pick the 3 games. We're going to play those for the first 40 minutes. And the last 20 minutes, we do a full ice schedule. So
that's awesome.
Or full ice scrimmage. So
that time of year.
Yeah, that's it. Joe, thank you so much. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah,
Take
I just
it
wanted to add there, Joe. I just wanted to add one thing, Joe. One of the things I love about that drill is it doesn't involve a net and it doesn't involve a goalie.
That's right. That's right. And we start practice off with that quite a bit, and it gets competitive.
I like putting goalies out there.
That was going to be my next question. Is
puck handling? Yeah. We'll put our 2 goalies out there or 3 goalies out there on their own team.
So that's we could get, that's a whole nother podcast because I'm a big believer too. In terms of goaltenders, like to start practice and drills, like we'll do transition drills with goalies behind the net, not even in that. To get them off their hips, especially at 14, 15, and 16. Like we'll take 2 practices a week will be off their hips. So they're working, they're doing our skating drills and they're doing our passing drills. Yep.
Please don't say RVH on this podcast right now. Joe, thank you so much, man. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Best of luck to your teams. And we've got this little thing called the Olympics in a few, I guess, less than 8 weeks now.
Well, we got World Juniors first.
World Juniors first. Yeah, defending World Junior champion Team USA.
That's right.
Which I think we're back to back too, which is the
back to back
first time we've ever been back.
I'll give USA Hockey a small plug. We tell people this may, I know the 1980 Olympics was unbelievable, the gold medal, the miracle, unbelievable. That promoted so much hockey within our country. But right now might be our golden era. I mean, it's the first time any national governing bodies won all 3 senior tournaments. We're senior men's, women's, and Paralympic champions, back-to-back World Juniors, Halinka, and I'm missing something.
Did we have 17U?
Did we get
17U?
There's something else in there, and like, we've never been able to do that, and it's awesome, and it's a reflection of all the youth hockey that's growing. It's a reflection of the NHL support. It's a reflection of all these youth hockey coaches doing such a great job, and not only we're just growing, and our quality is getting better, and it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, it's funny. The first time we had Bob on, he was traveling back to Michigan, but he from Buffalo, so he was going through Canada, and we were getting sketchy coverage. He's like, "I go, they're on to you, Bob. They know you're there. They're taking away your Wi-Fi." So I'm convinced we're winning the Olympics. We're winning this. The Olympics is going to be the cherry on top. I believe it.
It really could bust things open. But you guys are awesome. You guys have a great message, great mission here, and I'm really happy to be part of it. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe, for joining us.
Thanks, Joe.
See you guys.
See ya. All right, Grant, we're good, bud.